Well, hey there, friend, and welcome back for another episode of the Your.Hair.Mentor podcast, where I'm your host and your hair mentor, Crystal Green. And I invite you to come take a listen to the top leaders and thinkers and experts and innovators in the beauty industry as they share their stories of triumph and struggles and success in creating their businesses behind the chair. I hope you enjoy these episodes just as much as I did recording them. See you on the inside, friend.
Well, it was nice to meet you finally, Kristina. I've been following you for a little while on social media, and so it's really nice to e-meet you, or I mean, what do we say these days? Digitally meet you?
Digitally meet each other. It's really nice to see your face and to be talking and connecting and hearing your voice as well. I've been binging your podcast actually lately, Crystal, so it's really nice to be having a conversation on top of, I've been listening to lots of conversations you've been having with former guests as well and loving it.
Oh, thank you. It's funny, like anytime someone says they've been listening to my podcast, I get like a little sweaty. Like, oh, yeah. You've been listening to me? Like, wait, people actually listen to this? But thank you. I do appreciate that. So obviously you have a nice little accent. Can you tell me about where you're at in the world and share with my listeners where you're located?
Absolutely. So I'm located in Sydney, Australia, which is one of the biggest cities in Australia. I'm a hair color specialist and educator. So I divide my time between working in a beautiful little salon with a couple of friends. I currently rent a chair. I've worked in many different styles of salons, from being an employee in a commission salon, larger spaces, as well as smaller boutiques. But I've also traveled all across the globe teaching, both for big brands as well as, and more recently, as an independent educator. So I absolutely love Sydney, but I have had the honor of being able to fly all over the world to be able to teach. And now in the technology age, it's awesome because I've got a podcast as well. I've got an online course and really leaned into the digital side of teaching in the last few years as well, which means I get to connect with awesome new hair besties such as yourself and meet your listeners and engage in different ways without having to get on a 24-hour journey, which is also great for listeners because it doesn't replace in-person events, but it really complements it. So I'm from Sydney, Australia, so I have that slower Aussie drawl to my voice, and I think you sound glamorous, so that's win-win.
Oh gosh, thank you. It's so funny because I grew up in Northern California on the West Coast here, and the Californian accent, if you will, is almost the absence of an accent, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always so jealous that everyone has these cute little inflections in their voices, and I feel like the California is just so like vanilla when it comes to language, but I guess not, right? I mean, you always want what you don't have.
Yeah, you always do. That's what keeps us hairdressers busy as well, right? Because we're always wanting something slightly different.
I think it's fun to learn and listen from someone who sounds different than you do too. It kind of automatically makes it feel special in a way.
Yeah.
Even though it's so surface level, but there's just something magical about it. So it's funny because you're sitting here in a tank top and I'm in this like wool fuzzy sweater. Yeah. It's different times of the year for us too, right? Because you're approaching summer, right?
Well, actually, strangely enough, we're approaching winter, but I am in a tank, but it's like a light boucle fabric. Apparently, that's trending at the moment, but it does get like our winter in comparison. I used to teach for Redken for many years and would go over to their New York Academy like 4 or 5 times a year. So I've experienced from February right through to probably November in my traveling. Our winter doesn't require much more than probably a denim jacket and a scarf. Like it doesn't get that cold.
Gotcha.
Sydney is quite similar, I think, to California in the weather. Like it's quite rare that you need to really layer up.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm still envious of your bare shoulders at the moment. I wish we had sunshine. It's raining and cold here right now. So I'm like, oh, no, I thought we were done with this. Oh. Okay. So not only are you a hairstylist and an educator, but interestingly enough, you specialize in just reds, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear about like how long have you been so super niched out and like what made you land there? Oh, there's your kitty cat. Hi. I love it. And you
Oh,
know, it's okay. They're just part of the family, right?
okay. I'm just going to bring a chair around to listeners who to my listeners on my podcast. Sometimes they hear her do a meow, and if they have a young baby, they have this automatic reaction where they sort of turn around thinking, oh, is my kid near me or something? It's like, there she is. She's got her chair down.
Oh,
Sorry.
perfect. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. My dogs are in the other room happily sleeping in their crates. So, and my kids
Yeah.
are off with my husband. So I know how it is.
Yeah, she made a really not so casual entrance then. She came around and tipped one thing off and then wanted her chair back. So she'll focus, I'm focused, we're all focused now. So
Perfect.
I have really niched down. I've been a hair color specialist for most of my career. I've been hairdressing for almost 30 years. I did a apprenticeship in Sydney. I began in a small suburban salon for a few years, but I wasn't really getting that training of doing things like a graduated bob or how to customize different scissor techniques and how to do more technical colors. So I sought out to extend my apprenticeship. I didn't know that at the time, but I wanted to work with somebody that could really train me to a much higher level. And I went to work with Alison Shower, who was formerly working with Vidal Sassoon, and she opened Australia's first ever colour specialist salon in Sydney called Blondes, Brunettes and Redheads.
Cute.
So it was cute. We learned all of the techniques. She had curly hair. She'd been the head of the New York colour department for Sassoons. She'd also worked for Crazy Colour in London. And we did punk color, we did classic color. I was doing hennas, I was doing the full spectrum of hair color, and we realized my strength wasn't in cutting. I did the learning for everything, but I would always forget there were ears on both sides of the head and have like a little bite mark or a little C-shaped jump out of one side. So we realized after a lot of training models that it wasn't my strength, and I knew enough to be the foundation to understand how to enhance with texture, dimension, how to flatter or do detailing in a shape. But I certainly didn't have that way of thinking or the inclination as well that I wanted to continue the training with it. I loved color formulations, and therefore I needed to learn all the techniques. So I really immersed myself. I extended my apprenticeship and then got into being an educator as a colorist with her, not talking, sort of, hands on stage, doing extra things, and just loved it. And I realized probably only in the last 5 to 8 years, working at some of the biggest global shows, both for Redken, different brands, as an independent, representing hair magazines, both here in the US. I've been to Sweden for hair shows all over Asia, and red is hard. Red is not something that is brand related, yet it seems every single brand struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Every veteran to newbie hairdresser can really struggle with it. And it really is something that I saw hairdressers struggling with. But more so, I also had clients sitting in my chair in the salon saying, nobody can get my red right. I always leave looking like I've been to the salon. There's always these brighter pieces. I ask them for something different. They do it. I end up with stripes in my hair. And I thought the two things, like, there just wasn't something meeting up. Was it our training? Did we not learn this in beauty school or cosmetology school, apprenticeship? I know I was not forced, but I did some training, but I was really out there on the floor working on paying clients as my experimentation ground. And it's quite scary. So I wanted to change that for people. And I've created a unique leveling system in my education that's translatable brand to brand. And I changed my messaging on my social media to attract clients into the salon, knowing that I'm a reds and copper expert. I still do blondes Some of my blondes and brunettes say, oh, are we like the blondes? No, because I still feature photos of blondes. I do curls, curly color, and coppers and reds. But I also get, and this might be a bit of an aha moment, there are so many natural redheads that are looking for a great hairdresser. And if you can extend your color knowledge to know how to cover their grays or how to offer them something that's a natural sun kissed, they will come to you. They will tell their friends about you. It is like this untapped niche of unhappy people out there that are salon hopping because hairdressers keep not meeting their expectations. So I've found that in education and in the salon, it's helped me to scale my business and to attract more clients. I still do the odd, I dabble in brunettes, I do some scalp bleaches, and I have enough products for it, but I do really specialize in reds and coppers, and that's what people know they can get from me, and they will come, far and wide to come and see me.
Yeah, I think there's something really cool about such an interesting niche. It's pretty common these days for people to be in some sort of a niche market, right? Whether you're the organic, natural stylist, or you're the blonding specialist, or the curly hair specialist, but the red specialist is kind of unique. And I have to tell you, I did a little quiz on my social media. Was it yesterday or the day before? Just as kind of like a little warm up for this conversation. And I said, hey, I'm interviewing a red specialist. And I got multiple responses from natural redheads that were like, oh, excuse me, like just clients that follow me or, general public that follow me that were like, wait, someone specializes in natural redheads? I want to hear from her. And then I had them respond with a conversation like, oh, she does red hair color. I said, no, I'm pretty sure she knows how to serve natural redheads better as well, because that is difficult. It's kind of the same thing, right? When a natural redhead starts to go gray and loses pigmentation, you have to understand how to formulate that red to then make it look natural on the natural redhead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's two ways of looking at it. It's a grieving and this massive emotional shift. So the redhead client who's sitting in your salon getting a few grays or whites that are starting to come through may have for the last 5 years noticed that their hair is more dull, whereas in their childhood, whether they were teased for it or celebrated for it or both, it was their flaming, crowning glory. And so there's these emotions that are going on as well. From a salon point of view, if you put a color on there that us as hairdressers, we are wowed when we see a hair show or something that's on a catwalk or on an Instagram feed that is the brightest. We say tomato sauce, you say tomato ketchup, bright, bright red. We're wowed by it. It's fun, it's attention grabbing. It is not something that naturally happens in the spectrum of natural colors. So when a natural redhead is seeking out their first ever hair color, it's usually much older than a brunette or a blonde dabbling for the first time just for fun. And it's usually because their brilliance or their brightness has gone. So, unfortunately, so often hairdressers grab for the brightest orange or they hear you want to go a bit brighter. And then that client literally looks like they've just stepped out of a salon and they don't want that. They just want to have a glow up or they want to look like themselves with less of that gray in there. And it's something that I actually teach in my online program, and it's something that comes up again and again in coaching within my community for hair painting for redheads. So much so that I've recently created a new fast track, so more of a mini course all on formulations, and I have a ebook on this to help people. So there's a formula that you can approach, but it does take a little bit of experimentation. And I realized that this is a thing because I had a client who moved over from the UK to Australia. She tried a few of the top salons in Sydney and her roots were glowing, like you could see them from outer space. And the rest of it was like a brownish ginger. And she said to me, please, we met at some drinks. It was a UK hairdresser friend visiting Sydney. I used to work with him on shows. And she is a loving, loyal client. We also want to be able to please them because she's now 90% grey, was a natural redhead. She rebooks every 4 to 6 weeks, which is much more frequent than a balayage that comes every 6 months. A redhead is a slower one to get into the salon because they're a little bit nervous, they're unsure what's available. But one of my bigger specialities than the high-end fashion reds is I tell clients I specialize in natural, in inverted commas, natural looking reds, coppers, auburns, golds, strawberry blondes, warm blondes. I love creamy blondes. So I let them know that I love warmth, and why I love it is it's healthy, it's bright, and it looks natural.
Yeah.
Even if they've spent a few hours in the salon.
Right, right. What do you think is one of the biggest hurdles when coloring naturally red hair that most hairdressers run into? If you had to pick something.
I think it could be either if you were lightening natural red hair to get to like your beautiful color, to get to a platinum or to get to cream, whether it's in highlights or balayage. I think hairdressers run into a problem not knowing what product to choose. Most color ranges and most salons these days have at least one bleach. So they may even have as many as 4 or 5 bleaches in your range. You might even have 3 in your color area. If you are an independent or a booth owner, it's an affordable option to have a few. So I would suggest that hairdressers test their bleaching and to actually get some red hair strands. A pro tip that I would share is that you need to have a blue powder bleach when working with red hair. Sorry, you need to have a blue powder bleach when working with red hair, or natural orange based or auburn, because blue is the opposite to orange, and blue will lift to a less brassy blonde, which returns back to the salon still more of a brighter blonde. So I think that it can come down to lightening, is to know what bleach to use, not to go for the fastest because it will make it more yellow. And then the grey coverage is a little bit of a tweak in what formulas you're using as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, because with the natural red pigment in there, it's almost like you have your underlying orange with like more orange on top of it, right? So you need like the double whammy with the blues and the drabbers in the bleaches. I could see that.
Absolutely. And I think that with the grey coverage, we overcomplicate it, and hairdressers tend to want to put a drip of this and a drop of that and an ounce of this and a cap of this. You've really got to measure things, and my suggestion is to use an N, which is a 0.0 or an N as your base, and then keep it simple and choose one target color, and then you intermix those, and then you've got room to move. If you need it to be a bit brighter, you can add a bit of brightness in, but not to mix and formulate from a point of fear. If you're not confident with something, that could go for blondes, brunettes, redheads, curly hair, dry cutting. It could be time to reinvest in some education. It's not a wise thing to keep saying yes to absolutely everything, because that's when the fear creeps in, and we've all had all those 1,000 voices in our heads that are saying, do this, don't do that, why don't you know how to do this? And we can go through that with color as well. So it's something that I think we've got to be aware that natural redheads probably don't want to look like they've had a packet dye or a really bright hair color, or they would have just done it themselves at home.
Yeah.
They're seeking out a professional hair colorist that will either add a bit of sparkle or low maintenance color for them, just to give it they're really nervous. So that would be where I would suggest to start, on the side of caution, rather than diving into the brightest like hair show red.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can imagine if you grew up with red hair, it's just part of your identity. And so if all of a sudden it just gets elevated like crazy, you're going to feel like, I'm not me. What is this?
Hmm.
I don't understand, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just doesn't feel like themselves, and people will be commenting to them, but they won't be
Yeah.
wanting it to be like that. And a lot of redheads have cooler skin and naturally. So if you're putting on something that's a really bright orange, it's better suited if it's a warmer copper or warmer red to warmer base skin, which is something to really consider. It does come into the complexion and suitability as well. So doing things that are just gently a shade warmer or lighter or darker can work really well.
Nice. I love your hair color, by the way.
Thank
I
you.
love this like very soft but bright and light. I mean, it's almost like peachy
A bit
red.
peachy. Yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
bit peachy. I am um uh, the way that I achieve it is with a high lift tint, and I think a lot of hairdressers forget the beautiful high lift, or it could be called special lift, or 11 series, or 12 series in the brand that you work in. Those special ones that are probably up high on the shelf collecting dust, and you can mix them with 12% or 40 vol. I utilize those a lot with hair painting for redheads to get the lighter shades. So if we
Mm.
think of strawberry blondes, rose gold, so I do that and then use a pastel color toning shampoo. I use something called Just Peachy by an Australian brand called Movo, and it's super easy. So it's the opposite of a purple toning shampoo that would eliminate yellow. You can
Right.
also utilize, I use a lot of temporary colors, and temporary toning shampoos are super easy for your clients to be able to use at home. They have one called Flaming Copper, Just Peachy. They even have one for brunette, coolest brunettes. So I think it becomes a two-way relationship, that you're also setting a client up for success to be able to maintain and refine their tone at home as well. But that's how easy
I
my
love it.
color is to keep fresh. And then if I want it to fade, it just fades to a more yellowy golden blonde, which I'm
Uh-huh.
okay with.
Do you struggle with hard water in your area? Like, is that
Mm,
is that common where you're at?
it's an interesting question, actually. Not so much in Sydney. However, Australia, interestingly, I learned this quite a few years ago when I saw maps overlaid, is the same size as America, but the population is far more spread out. So we are much more coastal. I live on the East Coast, so we are probably similar to California. There are some areas of the city that have older buildings, older, beautiful, like heritage homes. They may have more metallic elements or things that are coming through their water that could make a slight tinge of color, some greening happening on the blondes. But we also spend a lot of time in swimming pools because it's quite warm. So we have to combat things like swimmer's hair, chlorine hair. And that's where I find temporary toning shampoos are great as well. Like to use one that's a rose color by Movo, or the peachy one, so something that's a pale pink. However, in regional areas, there's bore water and there's different types of water. So if we're not sure, or perhaps there's some strange reactions happening, that's where you'd need to be doing the clarifying products as well. So I do always do a test strand before doing any color transformation, and new clients seeking out a big change, just to check, because it could also be product buildups and things that can wreak havoc with the hair coloring. Is that
Yes.
something that you experience where you're situated?
Big time. Yes, we have like
Yeah.
really heavy mineral rich water here. I know our drinking water is like some of the cleanest and best tasting in the country, which is great, but it
Mm.
is laden with minerals. And I struggle with a lot of, even on myself, a lot of people, blondes around here especially, get that kind of like tawny greenish hue to their blonde. And then there's some that struggle with a little bit of a peachy residue. And
Ah.
It's weird because it's like people living in the same town with similar hair colors will have different colors from the hard water kind of showing up in their hair. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And I wonder, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know enough about chemistry to understand if it's something in like their personal chemistry or the products that they're using that are reacting with that. But it just made me wonder because I think of Australia and I think of like red dirt in the outback or something, you know? So
think of the movie like Mad Max, and there's red dirt blowing everywhere.
yeah.
And certainly like Adelaide and Perth and the center of Australia, there's more mines, there's still beautiful beaches all up the Western Australian coast, but we do have the similar issues for people that are more beachside, I think, in our coastal cities. However, there is some of those issues, and I think that it's interesting, like, why are they going that peachy color? And it must be a thing about porosity. I recently wrote a blog for hair detoxing for consumers, and it was suggesting to use a deep clarifying shampoo, and whether you applied that onto dry or wet hair, like it's still very towel dried. And this could be something good for clients to do at home to keep their color bright, because it could also be a combination of, if somebody works out a lot, if they're jogging, there could be sweat, there could be body, like there could be powder through there that gives you that root lift and body, hairspray, dry shampoo, all of that, plus the chemicals in the hard water. If you do a detox once a week or once a fortnight, a client can really rub the shampoo, and that's when I tell them to rub it all the way down their hair strand and either leave it on for 5 to 10 minutes. Perhaps they use a nice silicone brush and do that as well. And then it really gets out all of those impurities, and it will make the blonde brighter, or the red more true to tone, or the brunette not such a shiny metallic color on there, and it makes it easier to style, less flyaway. So it could be something as easy as giving them a detoxing sort of product or a clarifying product.
So really, I mean, it sounds like more than just being a red specialist, you're like a client educator also, right? Because if you don't have the home care going on, then you can make them look fantastic and they'll go home looking their beautiful shade of red, but if they don't have their maintenance program on point, that's not going to last for them.
Yeah, that's something, actually, it's an interesting point that I was taught as an apprentice when I was training with my mentor, Alison, many, many years ago. I was taught an educated client is the client, your dream client. So it's our role as salon professionals, as beauty professionals, to educate our client how to maintain, how to go beyond just, here's a shampoo and conditioner, here's a hairspray for you. There's multiple different products on the shelves. I would never name myself the retail queen. I have worked with them, I watch them in awe, but I recommend to suit how to be educated. I would prefer a client to know how to care for their hair, how to rebook, and what to be asking for, but never ever any pressure. I love it when they when they come in and say, oh, can I get that balayage, bouliage, that we all sort of love to hear clients say. That's so sweet. I also really let clients know there is no pressure for you to know our language or lingo or technique name. I understand that you've been scrolling like a maniac before you've seen me on all the social media platforms. You're asking for baby lights and a zone toner and a balayage.
Yeah.
But like a baby back bend, and now it's sounding like gymnastics, and that's so sweet. But I don't need to know it, and I just say to them, oh look, I want to know how you feel about your hair, and what would you like to achieve today? And if it's a longer term plan, where are we going long term? Like, are they aiming to be a blonde from a black? Are they aiming to get married in 6 months and have their dream caramel Jennifer Lopez inspired hair or something? So we have perhaps a longer term plan. But how do you feel? Let me choose the techniques. I will explain each process and quote for them at the beginning. So being a color specialist that niches down into reds or niches down into curly hair shouldn't be a frightening concept for listeners, because it just means that you're helping clients know how you can best serve them and what you like to do. So that's, I think, where niching down can really start. I used to tell every curly hair person in my chair, I love coloring curls. We welcome curly hair here. We have several products, different options for drying. You can leave with it wet. I let them know all of those options. And then I make sure I tell them I love doing this. They then
Mm-hmm.
tell their curly hair friends, or simply they rebook and they become a long term client, just like redheads will. It's a secret society that you definitely want in your chair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up kind of inadvertently becoming the thick head of hair specialist in my
Oh,
first town where I grew up, my first business. It was the same thing. It was like I had one or two clients that had just this massive head of hair where it was that coarse textured, very wavy, and in their eyes, unmanageable. And I was able to quote unquote tame the beast for them. And so then it was like, yeah, the secret society where someone would see them on the street and be like, wait a minute, where do you get your hair done? And so all of a sudden, that was my entire clientele, right? And I didn't even mean to do that, but I made sure that when that client was in my chair, it was like, how can I serve you? Let's identify your struggles, let's identify your goals, and what I can do to get you there. And it was all honest and education based. And it was like, here's what I know, here's what I don't know, here's what I'm going to find out. And they all loved it. And then I had this kind of interesting niche market made for myself there. Now, I didn't have that happen again when I moved to Texas, but I wasn't seeking it out in the first place. Had I been, maybe I could have done the same thing. But it was interesting, and those people were like my ride or die clients. Like they're like, I will follow you to a cave if that's where you're doing hair. I don't care.
they will. They will follow you. And sometimes we get really stuck up thinking, like stuck in our brains, thinking you've got to be on a main street, you've got to be in the biggest city, you need to have big signage, be spending loads on your marketing. We're not all needing to do that. Once I realized I can work in the salon 3 days a week, I have cut back my salon hours. I've extended the length of time that I spend with a client. I did a groundbreaking training with, I'll do a shout out to a beauty pricing queen, Maddie Cook in the UK. I love Maddie.
I
And
just posted a podcast with her. It just went live today. I interviewed her last
okay,
week.
I'll be listening later.
Love
I've
it.
had her on my podcast, and I also invested in her pricing online course with the pricing app. And I spoke for an online event for her earlier this year. I never thought that I would be getting invited to speak in a lineup of different people that are business minded. And I was talking about how riches, or riches, we called it, were in the niches.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did her course and went through the pricing app, I realized some of my pricing was really where it should have been. I didn't really need to raise it. And other things, there was this massive gap. So, something that I've really learned about being a color specialist, and I can't remember the technical name for it, but basically, let's say if I'm in the salon for 8 hours and I am only physically painting a client for 3 or 4 of those hours. I have processing time, I have a lunch break, I have a setup time, and then they go to blow dries. So I'm waiting for that. I had to change my pricing to factor in the amount of activity time or the percentage in the day. And it was so different to what I'd always guessed it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I could only imagine that also if you're doing thicker hair, it couldn't be the same pricing. So for me to go through and look at, okay, a redhead is not just a base color, it's not just tinting the roots with a permanent color. They often are double or triple process colors, just like blondes can be, with treatments, toning, an overall color, or some detailing with balayage or highlighting. And then look at the pricing and then add on, the timing, the cost per unit. And it was this big epiphany I had. And now I'm able to cut back work with clients that I love, be more profitable and reach my goals. But it just wasn't something that we were taught. I don't think many of us in the industry were taught. And we were taught that you had to be the busiest or the fastest or at the busiest salon that had the most walk-in clients. And I just want to reassure people, if they're working in whatever style of salon, you too can find your niche. And it may be something that you stumble across, like the two of us did, and then there's a deliberate action to build on it, because you just be listening to people in the chair as to what they're telling you they need, and ask them. I love what you just said, Crystal, about the goals. What are your goals? That's an awesome question for a consultation as well. And that could then lead you to specializing, but it doesn't mean you have to let go of other things that you like doing. But it does mean that when you let go of other things, you're not so worried about saying yes to every single person, trying to please every single client, because it's just not possible. So I love that you're able to, move around these days with social media. I'm in a salon down a laneway under an art gallery that's been there for 12 years. They still don't have a sign out the front. There's a sticker on the window if you walk all the way up. We're busy and we're happy, and clients love that experience. And I've worked in other ones where there's 40 chairs and it's really intense. And for a time that was sustainable and exciting, but it wasn't where me or my clients needed to be. So I hope that helps people to realize that you can be profitable. Maybe your goal is to work 2 or 3 salon days. Maybe your goal is to stop doing hair cutting, or you only want to do hair cutting, and that's really exciting. But you've got to look at what your goals are as well, and start attracting the clients back to the salon that are seeking that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious what your idea is on when a stylist should niche down, because I've heard differing advice, right? Like straight out of beauty school, just only do what serves you and what lights you up. And then I've heard the other side of the argument where you need to go out and have some experiences first to then discover what you want to do. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's a great question, and maybe I'll answer it in yet another way. That's so I think in my experience, I said yes to absolutely everything. I got the job with Alison at Blondes, Brunettes and Redheads as I think 18 or 19-year-old nervous Nelly, I would describe myself as, who was just living out of home, still had a very sort of safe little bob with a few highlights in there. And then I went into this city salon and they had punk hair color, and I found my tribe and started going to all the queer parties, and got really fun into the fashion. And I think that at that stage I just said yes to everything. I said yes to someone shaving my head. I said yes to assisting one of the 2 people that I got to assist, and later I'm still in contact with and call them friends. Ruth Roach and Chris Sorby came when I was 19, and I would volunteer. I don't know if people do that these days, to assist at hair shows. They even showed me how to hold a broom. That was humbling, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I think you should say yes to as many opportunities as possible, particularly early on, because you just don't know what skill you'll learn. From that, I learned how to hold a broom, and I learned how to treat models at hair shows with respect. They were so respectful in their consultation. They didn't force anyone to do anything, and it has stayed with me since I was 19, almost 3 decades ago now. And I would say my first 10 years as a colorist, I did everything. And I also got that job in that city salon because I had this little resume with printed certificates of completion. I would go to Weller, I would go to L'Oreal, I'd go to Redken for a 3-hour or a full day course. I attended so much education. I'm really enthusiastic about attending and facilitating education. And I really don't think that you do know it all. It's totally okay if that's not sustainable for you. But I don't think that until probably 15 or so years into my career did it. I know that I can do color placement. I was described as being edgy. I've won color competitions that are nationally recognized. and internationally recognized early in my career for my formulation. So I knew that I would be a color specialist, and other people knew that for me. However, I didn't know about niching down. I probably didn't know what the word niche even was until about 5 years ago.
It really
And
wasn't a thing,
it wasn't a
15 years
thing.
ago. Yeah.
No. So I think it was something that's just evolved for me. I realized I needed to do it more so in such a loud, fast, busy salon where I was working that was renowned for the seamless blends and balayage. I Balayage doesn't come as natural to me. I can do it. I can do it visually, but I can't seem to figure out the exact patterns. I've been to lots of different lessons. I do it more organically, and that's fine. But I didn't know how to compete with others that were doing all of that technical stuff. And I realized they didn't know how to do simple, to me, grey coverage and classic coppers. So why not start promoting that? So I think it could go either way. But I have worked a lot in volunteer capacity. I have reached out to mentors. I have aligned myself with educators, both in paid positions, in intern type positions, and I've volunteered even as a fully qualified hairdresser. Like about 6 years ago, Victoria, who has the Whittemore House hair paint and bleach. She came out from New York, an Aussie colorist, Aussie born, and I volunteered to assist. And it was an awesome experience to be able to see backstage. I then used some of the products for a while in my education, and I just think look beyond, like, you've got to make a decision and then get stuck into it. It could organically happen, but don't look at niching down as a way of limiting yourself to other experiences, because maybe you haven't fallen in love with something yet.
Yeah, that's kind of my perspective on it too. And I like to think in the beginning of my career, I was the same. I said yes to everything. And even if it was something I didn't love or something that I wasn't fully confident in, I would say yes, but with honesty. Like I would tell my client, ooh, that's really exciting. I can't say that I've done that before, but I'm totally willing to experiment with you. And if it goes poorly, I'll fix it. Right?
Yeah.
Because in my eyes, it was every one of those things that I said yes to was maybe an opportunity, either a learning opportunity or maybe an opportunity because that client would recommend someone else that then became one of my ride or die clients, or maybe would introduce me to someone that would further my career. And so I don't like the advice for brand new baby stylists coming into the industry to graduate beauty school thinking, I'm going to be an extension specialist and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm like, honey, you need to get out there. You need to know what you're capable of and what you can do and who you can serve, you know?
Yeah, I think I can see why some people might think that as well. And I can think back to that time. I was doing all these wild colors and making people look like they were tropical fish and bright blondes. And we were shaving bits of hair off and wearing scarves and like these sort of grungy punk queer culture, like going to nightclubs during the week and still coming into work. And all of that was really fun. And I'll share a secret. I thought that the salon owner had walked out of the back room, but she was actually just lower down. I couldn't see her. She was getting color from a lower bench. And I had been told at about that age of 19, 20, some of your consultation or the way that you're describing things or not selling retail is not suited to our clients who are professionals in the range of 35 to 55. And, that perhaps some of the looks that you're bringing in aren't that suitable. And I said really confidently, I don't even want those oldies anyway. And then she popped her head up from the bench with the color tube she'd been looking for. And it was a really good learning moment because my heart sank. And I didn't realize at the time they probably have the money to be coming in every 6 to 8 weeks. They were actually paying for us to have that awesome in-salon training, to be having all the products on the shelf, to be able to do those creative hair shows every 3 months with the local art students and fashion students that had no money. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's a cockiness and maybe something that does change. And I also think that the younger hairstylists and colorists have this brazen, bold, fearless approach, which we should also encourage, and it will push us as being older hairdressers or been in the industry for longer than just getting out of beauty school. It pushes us to be that bit daring and forget about all the mistakes we've made along the way sometimes. So I can see where some people might want to be an extension specialist because it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Could perhaps make a higher ticket sale, but then you've got to have a lot of money to be able to invest in the extensions too, right? So it's
Yes.
that's where it comes back to pricing. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I guess it depends. So I really want to encourage people, don't limit yourself and go to things, because you'd be surprised, even if you go to a business for salon owners workshop, you'll still learn something about how to answer the phone or how to do an automatic text reminder or something that might be able to automate your business. It's not all about hair techniques. You still will always walk away with something, whether it's something you don't ever want to do or it's something that you will start implementing. It's great to learn. I
Yes.
think don't limit yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always fascinated when I go to classes, sometimes the things that I walk away with, right? You go spend all day in some hair cutting class and you might walk
Yeah.
away with that one little flick in the wrist that
Yeah.
that person did that you're like, "Oh, interesting." And that's
Yeah.
all you took away. But that's still it's great, right? You learned
Yeah.
something and you
Yeah.
get to grow as an artist and it's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Christina, I'm curious, in color terms, what product line do you have, like one color line that you just love, or like what are your favorites as a red specialist that you use?
It's a great question, and it's something that takes a bit of experimentation. I work in Australia, as we've discussed, in Sydney. I work with a Australian hair color brand called Kevin Murphy. Kevin Murphy is a global brand. Why I love them is they have beautiful natural reds, auburns, coppers, golds. They're an ammonia free, hybrid isn't the correct word, but they are, in my language, a hybrid range that you can intermix all the different levels of peroxide as well as their semi or demi developer. And they have not just all the beautiful reds, that they also have really predictable gray coverage for brunettes. And they have my favorite at the moment, favorite bleachers. They have about 4 or 5 bleachers, from freehand to blue powder with ammonia. They've got ammonia free. So I have that as my complete range. And I stock way more tubes of red on my shelf than I do with probably other salons are cursing the person that orders, if not themselves, for ordering and forgetting the 6N and the 9V toner. I'm the one going, oh no, I haven't ordered the 7.4 or the 7.46. So I over time know that I need more of those. So I
Mm-hmm.
stock all that range with a higher amount of reds. I also have loved for many years Redken Shades EQ Gloss, the demi permanent colors. I find they complement each other really well. I also have direct dyes, Evo, Fabuloso, which are color pigment conditioners. And more recently, in the last year, I use Muvo color toning shampoos and conditioners as well. And I retail those. So I rent a chair. We have some Kevin Murphy. And we also have, for the neon colors, different brands. So Manic Panic, Crazy Color, Staino. So from what I'm describing, it sounds like a lot of product, but what I want to share is I choose what works. I'm not committing to any brand that tells me I can only use their brand, because I have tried to do everything with one brand. And I certainly did when I was educating. I'm also a brand-free educator or brand inclusive. I've shifted the wording to. So I've worked in the past with Kune, Goldwell, Weller, Redken, L'Oreal, Matrix, and so many other brands. I really do think that you can achieve any gorgeous red or get great coverage with any brand when you are technically grounded. However, not all brands for redheads have much selection in a level 8 or 9. And that's where it starts to get a little bit challenging. So if you are wanting to learn more about reds or wondering why perhaps your coppers are too bright, it could be in the levels, it could be restricted. I have worked with other brands that I was pretty disappointed with their selection, but I won't name and shame them. I've been forced to work with some, and then you think, how can they not have anything in an 8 level? That's where copper gold and natural gingers and lighter coppery tones live. So it doesn't mean that you can't work with other brands, but you need to start getting a little bit tricky with your customizing, using a 10 with a 6 or different blends. So those are the brands I love. And I think being able to layer things is really important. So it's a bit like perhaps cosmetics or skincare that you may use on yourself. You may have various brands. If you look in your drawer, in your bathroom, there might be some things that you use for a moisturizer or a sun protection or a lipstick if you like lipstick, or a styling product. I'd say it's very similar to that. So those are the brands that I know and love that deliver awesome results for me and my clients.
Yeah, I do the same. Honestly, I think the fact that you have all those different things just tells me that much more that you're an artist and you understand your products, right? I almost think it's a little red flaggy sometimes if someone is 100% sold on this one brand and that's all they use. I'm like, ooh, what are you not telling me? I've always done the same thing. It's like I like this from this product and I like this from this product and then this over here really special for that one thing. And so I end up kind of having a culmination of all these tools to then create the art that we want to create.
Yeah, I think it's all about customization, and it doesn't have to be about overspending. I think those two things are very different. You don't need 6 tubes of everything and to be guessing every month what you need to order. You can still run a profitable business, whether you're running a salon with a team that you have employees or assistants, whether you're self-employed or not. But if you customize, I just think it's a really special way to be able to be an artist and give predictable results without putting pressure on yourself that one range has to be everything for you, because you might be getting told something by a brand rep and that's their job to tell you that you can get everything, but realistically you can't necessarily do that. So I think it's totally okay to have a few little bits and pieces tucked away. Many, many, many hair salons do this. And I've been in many different back rooms and color areas. And even if they have 5 blonde toners or 5 reds from a different brand that they know delivers the results, they have that there. They might just hide it when their other brand rep comes in.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, Kristina, I want to hear a little bit more about the online education that you offer now for students. Whether is it a course that people take or membership where they're like in a community or both? Kind of break that down for me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually just published a new page on my website, which is exciting. So I'm Kristina with a K. And if you'd like to check it out, you can go to kristinarussell.com.au, or you can find me on Instagram at Colour, and I spell it the Aussie way, Colour, Kristina with a K, Kristina. So I'll share the important links with you, Crystal, for your followers. So I do have lots of tips that you can find on my Instagram and social media. And I do share some formulas, but I'm a little bit wary of that. So I do try to share inspiration to help people go off and formulate. A couple of years ago, I launched my signature program, and it is called Hair Painting for Redheads. It is an online program that is now an evergreen program. So it is something that when people are ready, they can join it. There's a combination of pre-recorded tutorials so people can dive in straight away and start watching. It's to help people with skills, strategies, techniques. There's 6, and soon, next month actually, I'll be adding another 3 techniques that are in the editing suite at the moment. There's 9 techniques ranging from classic copper. I've got a mature model in there with 90% gray, showing how to apply the color, how to formulate, how to offer change. There's freehand, highlighting, low lighting, and everything that you need to become an expert hair colorist that can confidently offer red techniques and formulations for both natural clients, natural looking, or those dying to be one. And it also, I have, it's not like a membership, so people get lifetime access, which is also awesome, because if you're like me, you go off and you learn something, you want to go back and practice it, you come back and you watch the lesson again, you go off and do it on a mannequin, you then come back and then want to share with others. So we do have an online community that is hosted on Facebook, and we have monthly coaching calls for the first 4 to 6 months, depending on when people sign up, with a couple of different live masterclasses on consultation. I get a special guest to come in and talk about branding or social media, how to start attracting more red and warmer clients, how to change your messaging. So we cover it all in that signature program. And the great thing is people can dive in and then also watch replays of past coaching calls. It's all there. So if people join now, they can see the past ones and they'll have access for life. And it's a really, really awesome course. I've also just launched a fast track course specific to formulations. So it is more of a faster track that people may be a good way to get to know me if they're still happy to be using their techniques for now. They're super duper busy. They're wanting to get in and have some support to have a mindset shift, to learn a little bit about how different formulating is, how to do gray coverage, how to decode color tubes. And that's called The Real Secret to Formulating Reds and Coppers. That has pre-recorded tutorials. You've got access to me to ask questions under the lessons, and it's a 12-month access. So it doesn't have the coaching, but it could be a good entry point, or some people just simply want to dive on in and come into the hair painting for redheads. And I've got a free masterclass as well that you can find on my Instagram or on my website. So at Color Kristina, or on my website, KristinaRussell.com.au. It's a 60-minute free class on how to avoid hot roots and banding with reds and copper. And if you watch that, you might get a very special offer as well to join the signature program. There's a little
teaser.
And I'm really excited. I'm actually filming again this Sunday. I've got a beautiful client coming interstate. She's got naturally black curly hair, and we're taking her to a red. So we've covered lighter blondes down to coppers. There's color correction in the signature program. I have how to fix hot roots, how to avoid them, freehand techniques, base and balayage for reds. It's a really comprehensive program that I wish was around when I was training, because I've really realized that you don't get second chances when it comes to hair painting redheads. They just simply go somewhere else. And I want those clients in my salon, and I want those clients to be in our listeners' salon, because they come back every 6 weeks. They tell all their friends about you. Their friends might be blonde. Their friends don't have to, be redheads, but an unhappy client can really just ruin your reputation. It only takes one redhead to ruin your confidence. It's unhappy, and it can just ruin your reputation. So I've got different levels. I've got the signature program hair painting for redheads, as well as the fast track Real Secret to Formulation, and a free masterclass as well. All available. The links on both platforms.
Woo, girl, you got it all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a very comprehensive collection you've got going there. Do you find you said it was a Facebook where there was like a community of people if they join. Do you find that people on their formula share, like, or try to, like, if they move from one color line to another, do they help support each other with that?
That's something that I've realized since creating my course. I was really trying to be brand free. I was using that word a lot, and I've shifted it in some of my language to be brand inclusive, but still brand free, because I think industry understand it. And all of the techniques I describe, as an example, this is level 7 starting level. This is a level 8 C or 8 copper with
Mhm.
30 vol or 9%, and the reason why we're doing it. So I use numbers for the levels and descriptions and reflex. And I try to keep it like that so people in whatever brand they're using now, whatever salon they're working in now, can understand it and not feel freaked out if the brand changes where they are, if they move cities, if they are going to set up their own salon. I've realized that's something that really scares a lot of people. And I myself, in the past, when I was a junior colorist looking to grow my clientele, work in a busier salon, I only looked at salons with a particular brand because I believed I could only do it with that brand. So, to answer your question, I've realized since opening this course that formula support is something that people really want. So, in the group, it's become more and more active in the last, I'd say, 6 months. People were sitting on the fence a little bit more, needing guidance at first. Nobody wants to look like they don't know what they're doing, yet we're all learning. And it is a really encouraging community. People are sharing their painting on mannequins, they're painting color transformations, they're asking for help. And it's something that I offer. I'm in there several days a week. I share my formulas and the why. So it's not just copying a recipe and then getting stuck if any of those elements are different when you're trying to repeat it. So the community group is to help with accountability, to keep you going with the progress of the lessons, and also to help you with formulas. We have people in there from all over the world. What's your favorite color stripper? How would I approach this transformation? I'm doing a fuchsia to copper. How do I do that? So that's where I find questions happen, as well as we have the group coaching that not everyone attends. It's not how everyone likes to learn, but then they watch the replay and they ask questions in the group as well. So it definitely is about formulas in there and technique inspiration. And then I make sure that I'll go in a week later, if that's when they were booked in, and follow up. So I don't leave that student lingering with feelings if it didn't quite work out. I've encouraged people to really share when things don't work out, as well as we celebrate those successes together, because I want them to push through that uncomfort and to understand what could have changed, what will change next time for them. And we help them each step of the way in that community.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I can imagine, I mean, it's been a while since I've switched color lines, but remembering back to when I did, and it can be scary if you don't know
Scary.
what the
Yeah.
level system is. Like sometimes switching from an American-based color line to a European-based color line or vice versa, like their leveling systems can be kind of different, or
Mm-hmm.
like their red has more of a cool reflect, this one has more of a warm reflect, and you're like, oh no, what do I do? So having people to help bounce ideas would be amazing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's so cool. So I have a question for you then with your future, because it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like this takes a lot of time for you.
It
This is a lot of
does.
work. Do you see yourself stepping away from behind the chair to do this full time, or does that like make your heart palpitate a little bit to think about?
Oh, it's such an interesting question. And it's like, ooh, I need to spill the tea. I'm not I'm not about to announce to clients that I'm not going to be working with them anymore. What I do love is doing both, because working on the salon chair, working behind the chair, sorry, on the salon floor, I should say, keeps me connected to what clients are wanting and keeps me connected currently to what hairdressers are experiencing in the salon. And I think it gives me a relevancy and keeps me faster in my techniques. However, it is a lot because I've also got my podcast, Color Kristina Talks for Hairdressers, that comes out usually weekly. There's blogs, there's email marketing, there's community nurturing for all my students, coaching, in-person education is slowly returning as well, which is great. So my secret currently is, and this is one of the episodes I was listening of yours recently, was about virtual assistants. I have an amazing, I'll do a shout out to Haraya. I have a virtual assistant that supports my business 30 hours a week. And
Wow.
I went from thinking, I don't know, I've got a few things I could get done, to very easily filling those. We started with 20 hours. So currently it's working for me to do 2 or 3 salon days. I have Haraya helping me to grow, scale, and elevate my education business and elevate our learners' experience, because she's working at the computer and is available to reply or to alert me on salon days. I don't reply as quick if they've got coaching. So we've sort of got somebody to bounce ideas between each other. How could we let students know they need to give me 4 days notice for a formula question, things like that. So I ideally could do 2 days a week in the salon if I had the consistency with the income, with education, and I can see where it's heading, and I'm tracking things and I'm geeking out over, what are they called? Excel spreadsheets.
Oh gosh, yeah, blah.
But if they've got cute different colors, and then I can see the numbers, and someone else is creating them and I give them the data to put in.
There you
I've
go.
become this kind of a geek for seeing the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. So if I love teaching, I love talking with people such as yourself. I love supporting other people in their education, in their business. And I also love some of my clients, but I would be open to letting that go if I felt that the two businesses were becoming too much. I really want work-life balance, and I want to be able to travel. Independence is important to me. Flexibility is important to me, and also some, structure or feeling safe if the hiccups of life happen, that I'm not really stuck to one or the other. Currently they support each other. If I was to let one go, it would be working behind the salon chair. You heard it here first.
It's on record, people. It's on record. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
I just recently actually stepped away from working behind the chair. Well, I guess it's May, so it was in April.
Wow.
It's frightening. It's like I don't really think it's part of my identity, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm only going to have people in my chair to be models, right? So they're not coming to me as clients at all anymore, because I had to have a mind shift of like, instead of being the service provider, I need to provide other things for the online business, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but at least for me, it was kind of a 4-month goal to step away and be able to focus on something different. And I'm always curious how other people feel, because I never thought I would even say those words. I thought I was going to be like one of my mentors that I started working with, who was like 75 years old and had to finally stop working because her shoulder stopped moving or something. Like she physically couldn't do it, but she loved it so much that she didn't want to walk away from it. I'm like, that's me. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be Judy. So yeah, it's weird. It's interesting, and I love hearing other people's perspectives. So thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. I think that's so great about our industry, that we can give it a try, and we don't have to be grinding and hustling so much that means success, because working online can have peaks and troughs. So can education. There could be a big hair show, you might get paid a lot of money for that, and then you're sort of stretching it out. But I think working behind the salon chair and you get money going into a till or into your account, however you take payments, it can sometimes give you a false sense that you are earning more, but you're not removing all of the costs, all of the color, all of the rent. And so it's an interesting time to be hairdressing and to be doing podcasts and to be doing online events that could be from the comfort of your own home or in a studio. It's a time to try different things, really. And yeah, I'm excited. I don't want to be 75 and doing it. I've got the opposite. I think, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I was fully retired, self-funded at 55? I don't think that's happening. I have a
Yeah.
lot more to give, and I'm not quite ready there because I've traveled a lot and bought nice bags and shoes and really blown a lot of things in my 20s and 30s. Before I met Maddie, I said to her, I'm really thinking about either buying your course or a new handbag.
Oh my
And
gosh.
her response was, buy the course, then the bag. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Buy the course, then you'll have the money to buy the bag also. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm very
so much.
inspired by you, and I love your story, and I know that this will be inspiring for other people, and you're probably going to inspire some people to look into reds that didn't know they should or could, or that could be their specialty. So I think that's really fascinating.
I hope that I have inspired people to look into reds, to feel more comfortable about even doing a warmer caramel, a honey copper blonde, to not think that everyone wants to be silvery ash or overtoned purple toning shampoos. And there's a place for it, but it's not for everybody. So when you start customizing and listening to people, you'd be surprised what you can start offering, because your confidence will grow and you'll know how to offer more alternatives to people still doing what you love. So do reach out, find me on Instagram. I love meeting other hair besties, people that are struggling with color or people that are already loving color but would just love to connect. And I've got a few different links in my Instagram. There's also a free ebook. There's a few different things that you can do, but I'd love to welcome you into my community and help you with any color questions that I can. So thank you so much, Crystal, for reaching out to me. I am honored to be helping you and your listeners and your community. As I said, I've been listening to, there was one on client shaming. There has been a couple that really piqued my interest that I've been listening to on the VAs and a couple of other ones. And I've been binging your show. So yeah, it's so nice to meet you in our digital video room here as well. So thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you. I really have had such a great time. It's so nice to connect with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. Wait, you said it's morning there, so it's probably at what, lunchtime soon for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a great day. I'm going to go make some dinner for my family here, which is funny. Yes. And I guess we'll just see each other for now on Instagram.
We will. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, friend. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Your Hair Mentor podcast. It has been my pleasure to be here as your host. Again, my name is Crystal Green. And until next time, my friend, as I always love to say, have a wonderful hair day, and I'll see you then. Okay, bye.